You probably had something this morning that's aging your brain faster than time itself, and it isn't sugar. I once treated a woman who did everything right. No sugar, no alcohol, daily exercise. Yet her brain scan showed the advanced atrophy of a heavy smoker, all because one healthy ingredient was hiding in her clean diet. This is happening to you right now. The damage is completely silent. No pain, no warning signs, just months of accumulated destruction you won't notice until it's too late. Your brain sits behind something most people never think about. It's not your skull. It's not even that thick layer of protective tissue. There's a wall, a barrier, and it's the single most important security checkpoint between your body and your mind. Think of it this way. Your brain is like a fortress. Everything that enters has to pass through specific checkpoints. Guards check credentials. Barriers are inspected. Nothing gets in unless it's supposed to. But what happens when those guards stop paying attention? When the barriers start to weaken? When the seal breaks? That's when things slip through. Things that shouldn't be there. This barrier, this wall, it keeps out inflammation, toxins, harmful bacteria, oxidative stress. All the things that age your body, your skin, your organs. But your brain gets extra protection. It always has. That barrier is supposed to be impenetrable. Yet in the last few decades, something changed. For millions of people, that wall is becoming porous, and they have no idea it's happening. There's a daily habit most people do, something they've been told their whole life is good for them, that's actually what's systematically punching these holes. And you probably did it today. When that barrier starts breaking down, the damage is silent. There's no pain, no obvious symptoms. Your stomach doesn't hurt. You don't feel dizzy. You don't get a warning sign. You just gradually notice that you can't remember where you put your keys. You forget why you walked into a room. You lose a word mid-sentence. A name you've known for years suddenly disappears from your mind. And by the time you notice something is wrong, months or years of damage have already accumulated. Most people blame aging. They blame genetics. They blame stress. They think it's just part of getting older. But that's the trap. Because what's really happening is that something you're actively consuming, something you think is healthy, something doctors aren't warning you about, is systematically weakening that protective wall. It's allowing inflammation to creep in. It's making your neurons stop communicating properly. It's stealing your memories, slowly and silently. Seniors are hit the hardest. Their natural defenses are already declining with age. So when this additional threat comes in, their systems can't fight back the way a younger brain can. The damage accelerates. Here's what's important to understand. This isn't about what you're not eating. It's about something you are eating. Something that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. And the reason you don't notice it's there until the damage is done is because of how it works inside your body. It doesn't attack your brain directly. It starts somewhere else entirely. Here's what makes this so dangerous. This ingredient wasn't designed to hurt your brain. It was designed to do something completely different in food. It was supposed to create texture, extend shelf life, make products stay stable on supermarket shelves for months. But once it enters your body, it starts a cascade of events that nobody warned you about. Most people don't realize that everything happening in your brain is connected to what's happening in your gut. They're not separate systems. They're directly wired together. Think of it like a two-way telephone line running from your digestive system straight to your memory centers. What happens in one place affects the other instantly. This ingredient damages the protective lining in your gut first. That lining is supposed to act as a filter. It keeps bad things out and lets good things through. But when you consume this compound regularly, that lining starts to deteriorate. It wears down like a surface being rubbed away by sandpaper. The cells that make up that protective layer start to separate from each other. Tiny gaps form where there shouldn't be any gaps. Once those gaps open up, inflammatory compounds slip through into your bloodstream. Your immune system recognizes them as invaders and launches an attack, creating inflammation that travels directly to your brain. At the same time, the beneficial bacteria protecting you are being decimated. Harmful bacteria multiply without competition and produce endotoxins, lipopolysaccharides, that also slip through those same gaps and travel through your bloodstream straight to your head. This is where the communication highway becomes a problem. That same pathway that's supposed to help your brain and gut work together is now delivering inflammation directly into your head. Your brain senses this invasion of inflammatory molecules, and it responds by activating its own immune cells, microglia. These are supposed to be protective, but chronic activation makes them destructive. They start attacking your own neurons. They attack the synapses where memories form. They attack the connections between brain cells. And here's the part that should terrify you. This entire cascade is happening silently. You feel nothing. No stomach pain, no nausea, no warning signs. Your gut isn't screaming at you. Your brain isn't sending signals that something is breaking down. You just wake up one day, realizing your thinking feels slower. Your memory isn't as sharp. Your focus is slipping. By that point, weeks or months of accumulated damage are already done. The inflammation has already started remodeling your brain. The protective barrier we talked about earlier is already compromised. The beneficial bacteria are already gone. Your immune system is already in a state of chronic activation, and you have no idea any of this is happening. This is the part that changes everything. Because this ingredient isn't hiding in junk food, you're probably consuming this right now. You're probably doing it every single day, and you think you're being healthy. This is the part that hits hardest. Not because the ingredient hides in junk food. It's because you've made conscious choices to buy products containing this compound, specifically because you thought you were protecting your brain. Your doctor probably never mentioned it. Your nutritionist probably recommended it. You use it without thinking. It's in your cooking oil. It's in salad dressings you buy at the grocery store, thinking they're clean. It's in your smoothies. That memory supplement you take thinking you're doing cognitive preventative care, it's probably in there too. The heart-healthy spreads people are told to use instead of butter, loaded with it. This compound is seed oil, vegetable oil, canola, soybean. The bottle sitting in your kitchen cabinet. The labels say natural and organic. But technically it comes from plants. But the way it's been processed, extracted, and concentrated is nothing nature ever created. But knowing the name isn't enough. You need to understand the specific mechanism, because that's what the research proves about how seed oils are actually destroying your brain right now. The moment I started looking at the research, everything connected. A 2025 study tracked aging adults over 8 years. The researchers weren't looking at just one marker. They measured inflammatory cytokines in the blood. They looked at microbiota composition using genetic sequencing. They tracked cognitive decline using standardized memory tests, word recall, processing speed, verbal fluency. They even did brain imaging in some cases to visualize atrophy patterns. What they found was a direct correlation between consumption of this ingredient and measurable brain shrinkage. Specifically, in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, the regions responsible for forming new memories and executive function. The data was clear. People consuming high amounts of this compound showed brain volumes consistent with aging 6 to 8 years beyond their chronological age. A 60-year-old was showing brain atrophy patterns of a 68-year-old. But here's what made the research compelling. They didn't just measure inflammation. They tracked which bacteria disappeared and which ones multiplied. They measured specific inflammatory molecules that had never been linked to cognitive decline before. In particular, they found elevated levels of lipopolysaccharides, endotoxins produced by harmful bacteria that overgrow when beneficial bacteria die. These endotoxins crossed into the bloodstream, triggered activation of brain immune cells, and directly correlated with cognitive test performance. The dose matters. This isn't about occasional consumption. People who consumed moderate amounts showed moderate decline. People consuming this daily showed accelerating damage. The relationship was linear and measurable. More exposure equals faster cognitive deterioration. Less exposure means slower decline. This is how you know it's causal, not just correlation. The dose-response relationship is the gold standard of evidence. What's even more revealing is how the damage from this ingredient actually creates the conditions for a second compound, one you're probably consuming in the same meals, to become far more destructive. It's a setup, and most people have no idea. Now, people will tell you this compound has been used in food for decades. The FDA approved it. It's been deemed safe. But here's what that actually means. It was deemed safe for acute toxicity. Safe at levels that won't poison you immediately. What it was never tested for was long-term cognitive effects. Nobody was looking at brain atrophy in seniors 40 years ago when regulatory approval happened. We didn't have the imaging technology. We didn't have the microbiota sequencing. We didn't have the neuroinflammation markers. The SAFE approval was based on a completely different standard than what we know now about how this compound actually affects the aging brain. This is especially critical for people over 60. Their cellular repair systems are already declining. The mechanisms that normally protect their brains from oxidative damage, the systems that clean up free radicals, repair damaged lipids, replace compromised membrane structures, these systems are running at reduced capacity. So when this compound starts creating oxidative stress in their brain cells, the body can't keep up with the repairs. The damage accumulates faster than it can be reversed. The research showed something else that surprised most clinicians. It wasn't just affecting people with genetic risk factors. It wasn't just affecting people with existing metabolic disease. Healthy adults consuming high amounts showed the same accelerated decline. The brain age gap appeared across the population. And this wasn't animal research. This wasn't in vitro studies using isolated cells. This was human data. Actual people getting actual brain scans. Actual cognitive testing. Measurable, reproducible decline that appeared in study after study across different populations and age groups. The evidence was comprehensive. Multiple pathways, multiple measurement points. Same conclusion every time. More exposure equals faster decline. And that dose-response relationship is proof this is causal, not just correlation. But here's what should actually terrify you. The damage isn't just happening in your blood or your gut. Your brain is incorporating these oils directly into its own cellular structures. And once you understand how, you'll see why this is far worse than inflammation alone. Your brain is approximately 60% fat, not muscle, not water, fat. The membranes that wrap around every neuron, that allow electrical signals to fire, that protect the delicate machinery inside each cell. They're made of lipids. They're made of fatty structures. For your entire evolutionary history, those membranes were built from saturated fats and omega-3 fats. Fats that are stable. Fats that don't break apart easily. Seed oils contain high amounts of omega-6 linoleic acid. When you consume these oils regularly, they get incorporated directly into your neuronal membranes. Your brain literally builds its cellular structures using these unstable fats. And here's where the damage begins. These fats are susceptible to oxidation. They rust, essentially. They break apart at the molecular level when exposed to oxygen, heat, and metabolic stress. When that happens, they create free radicals, unstable molecules that attack nearby cellular structures. Your neurons are now built with inferior materials. They're built with fats that degrade faster, that provide less protection, that generate destructive free radicals inside the cell. This isn't inflammation happening from a distance. This is structural compromise happening at the membrane level of every neuron in your brain. This is why it matters that you're consuming these oils every single day. You're not getting occasional exposure. You're getting constant replacement of healthy fats with fats that are prone to breaking down inside your brain. Cooking oil, salad dressing, baked goods, fried foods, even those memory support granola bars and protein bars marketed specifically to seniors, the ones promising to protect cognitive function. They're loaded with it. Most people have no idea they're consuming exactly what's destroying the thing they're trying to protect. Your aging brain is particularly vulnerable because the cellular systems that normally repair oxidative damage are already declining. The enzymes that clean up free radicals work slower. The mechanisms that replace damaged lipids work less efficiently. So any oxidative stress accumulates faster in older brains than younger ones. But there's more happening. There's a second mechanism that exploits this vulnerability, something you're likely consuming in the same meals, and the combination is far more damaging than either alone. But here's the thing. Seed oils are only half the problem. They've already weakened your protective barrier. They've already killed off beneficial bacteria. They've already loaded your neurons with fats prone to breaking down. And now there's something else that exploits that damage. Something waiting in your diet sodas, your sugar-free yogurts, your electrolyte drinks. Something you're likely consuming in the same meals, thinking it's actually protecting you. And it's about to show you why the damage compounds. Artificial sweeteners are the second hidden threat. But they're not a separate problem. They only become catastrophically dangerous when your brain's protective systems are already compromised. And after consuming seed oils daily, that barrier is primed to fail. Consider what's already happened by this point. Your gut lining is damaged. Your beneficial bacteria are depleted. Your brain's security wall is weakened. Low-grade inflammation is traveling from your digestive system straight into your head. Your neurons are built with unstable fats prone to breaking apart. This is your starting condition. Now introduce something designed to overstimulate your nervous system. Artificial sweeteners, aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, acesulfame potassium, directly activate neurons. They bypass normal taste detection and trigger neural circuits involved in reward and sensation. In a healthy brain with intact barrier function, occasional activation is manageable. Your brain handles it fine. But in a brain already stressed by chronic inflammation, built with oxidation-prone membranes, already sensitized by constant microbial toxins, that direct neural stimulation becomes destructive. Neurons start firing continuously, persistently, without proper recovery. Your neurons burn out from constant activation and begin to die. This happens specifically in the hippocampus, your memory center, the region that forms new memories and consolidates experiences into long-term storage. When sweeteners overstimulate this area, you don't just get inflammation, you get cell death in the exact region responsible for remembering your life. A 2025 neurology study tracked over 12,000 adults for 8 years. High consumers of artificial sweeteners showed 62% faster decline in memory and overall cognition compared to low consumers. That's not gradual deterioration. That's equivalent to your brain aging nearly 2 years beyond your actual age for every year of high consumption. The effect was strongest in people under 60, those you'd expect most resistant to cognitive decline. It worsened in people with diabetes, likely because metabolic stress had already compromised their blood-brain barrier. Sweeteners weren't just causing inflammation, they were exploiting existing vulnerabilities. The cruelty runs deeper. These products are marketed as safe alternatives: diet sodas, sugar-free yogurts, zero-calorie energy drinks, protein bars for recovery. People consuming these are trying to avoid sugar. They're making conscious choices they believe protect their health. While they dodge sugar with these sweeteners, they're actually accelerating the cognitive decline sugar was blamed for causing. When you combine both threats together, the damage multiplies. Seed oils damage your barrier and load neurons with unstable fats. Sweeteners overstimulate neurons through that compromised barrier. The combined effect isn't additive, it's multiplicative. Together, they're far more destructive than either would be alone. This mechanism is destroying memory in millions right now. Not genetics, not aging, not inevitable decline. Active, preventable damage from two compounds hiding inside foods marketed as healthy choices. Name the specific sweeteners wherever you encounter them. Diet drinks, sugar-free yogurt, electrolyte beverages, protein bars. Even some medications use them as stabilizers. They're not hard to spot once you know what you're looking for, but most people never look. The synergy matters. It's the reason seed oils alone wouldn't cause this level of cognitive decline in some people. It's the reason sweeteners alone wouldn't trigger such rapid memory loss. But together, in the same body, consuming daily for years, they create a cascade that overwhelms aging brains especially. You now understand what's destroying memory. The question becomes action. There's one meal, one specific time of day, where you're probably consuming both of these compounds simultaneously, more concentrated than any other moment. Most people think they're eating something protective for their brain. They're actually loading up on the exact combination we just talked about. This is where the damage accelerates most. And if you stop here without knowing what you're doing wrong at this meal, the progress you just made won't hold. The next video shows you exactly what's happening at that moment, which choices are traps, and what to actually do instead. Not restriction, protection. Watch it now before tomorrow morning. Everything depends on what you know before you eat again.